Guru Sri Juta Padakamalang.
Hare Krishna, welcome to our channel. Bhagavad-gita, here it is, because here it is, Bhagavad-gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and my name is Bhagavad-gita. We are closing in towards the end of the 7th chapter, knowledge of the Absolute. And that sometimes you can't say that you have knowledge of the Absolute, because we're all supposed to be kind of just feel our way through life. But actually we have access to Krishna's words. Krishna, Supreme Personality Godhead, can certainly give us knowledge of the Absolute. In this chapter, I'm reading one verse at a time, I'm reading the purport, but if you have your own Bhagavad-gita, why not make, just read the translations to all the verses in a chapter to get a sense of the chapter, because it has like it has a sense of chapter-wise, but then when we read it, the verses, we go in on the details. But both ways of reading Bhagavad-gita are very illuminating and inspiring. So this is text 23 today. I'm reading the Sanskrit. Antavatu palang teshang tad bhavatyalpamedhasam devan deva yajo yanti madbhakta yanti mamapi. This might be one of those core verses as well. It feels very familiar in the Sanskrit. Men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods. But my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet. So that's the perspective we get in the Bhagavad-gita, because we do have many religions, and we encourage anyone who has faith to go deeper in their religion, because ultimately they're all coming from the same Supreme Personality of Godhead, so that in every culture there's a possibility to connect back to God. But that this absolute perspective that is given in the Bhagavad-gita can sometimes be a little difficult to find. So we speak about, I'm from Sweden, we're not particularly religious, but the religious we are familiar with is generally Christianity. And there we speak about going to heaven, because God is in heaven. But heaven, what does it even mean? When we come to the Bhagavad-gita, we get a wider perspective on that, because we have heavenly planets within this material world where life is of a better quality, lasts longer, and it's possible to aspire to go there. But the spiritual realm is eternal. It's spiritual through and through. So in this material world we have different degrees, and then Prabhupada sometimes gives the example, like if you're in a prison, because the material world can definitely be compared to a prison. We're in there, it has a certain structure, there's a reason we're in there, and we can't get out on our own. But in that prison there are different levels. You can have, I don't know the terms for this, but certain prisoners have a position of responsibility, and therefore they also have access to better facilities. And if they become attached to that and think, I will stay here forever, and make my career out of being this level of prison life, which is better than the other levels of prison life. And it's a kind of an illusion, because a prison is supposed to be a place where you go due to some you take a wrong left and you're on the criminal path, and then you get the reaction and you go to prison, and then you come out and hopefully you're able to turn your life around. Of course I know it's not all that easy in reality, and actually the example with the material world is the same. It's not all that easy. And I found myself in a little discussion with a friend of a friend who also has some experience of working in a prison. I spent some time working in a prison during my studies, and it's very easy to get drawn into the limited sense. Somebody did something bad, so they're bad, so we put them in prison. Case closed. Though the philosophy behind the prison system in Sweden is that it's possible to reform, and as a society we want to give that opportunity by setting up certain programs and so on. So this material world, very similar. We come here for a reason. We encroach on Krishna's property and try to enjoy it separate from him. And then there are certain reactions, and they're all very fair. But the point is not that we're here to suffer. We're not here that Sri Krishna pays back for all the wrong things we've done. No, we're here, and whatever we do, it gives us a reaction, and we have to take that. But at the same time, there's always the possibility to turn around. That's not what I wanted to spend the whole time speaking about. I have a whole purport ahead of me here, but it's actually very important to catch that perspective. We're on this earth planet where we can see birth and death, we can see suffering and also enjoyment going on, and we know after death soul goes on to another place. But if we only aim for heaven, which is better, there we live longer, and the enjoyment is proportionately bigger than here, and the suffering is proportionately less. But after that one life in the heaven, we die. We leave that body and we come back as human beings, and we can stay in this material world for a very long time. So yes, I very much don't like that binary perspective that sometimes comes along with religion, good or bad, heaven or hell, right or wrong. Because yes, that is there as well, but the perspective is a little bigger. The nuances are there are a little more of them, really. Purport. Some commentators of the Bhagavad-gita say that one who worships a demigod can reach the Supreme Lord, but here it is clearly stated that the worshippers of demigods go to different planetary systems where various demigods are situated. Just as a worshipper of the sun achieves the sun, or a worshipper of the demigod of the moon achieves the moon. Similarly, if anybody wants to worship a demigod like Indra, he can attain that particular god's planet. It is not that everyone, regardless of whatever demigod is worshipped, will reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is denied here, for it is clearly stated that the worshipper of demigods go to different planets in the material world, but the devotee of the Supreme Lord goes directly to the Supreme Planet of the Personality of Godhead. So sometimes I have the tendency that Bhagavad Gita is there, I can read it every day, I can turn to Krishna, I can meditate on the Hare Krishna mantra every day. It's kind of just part of life, but actually it is such a big deal that by such a uncomplicated and accessible process, we can jump over the whole samsara going up and down in this material world for different, as a result of different karmas. We can actually attain the spiritual world quite directly, but it's good that we are aware of that we don't become, vague in our mind. Like I heard I think it's from the Christian background as well, and I'm not singling out Christianity, it's just that it's what I'm closest to, and I'm very well aware that Christianity contains many different levels of philosophy and understanding. But here somebody was saying, well, yes, we're all believers, and when we die, we go to heaven. And I have been exposed to the other way, the other side, which of course is even worse, when you say if you're not perfectly, exactly right according to our doctrines, you'll go to hell and you'll stay there forever. That's terrible. God wouldn't do that to us. We have reactions in this world. Some are good, some are bad, some are terrible, but they're all temporary. Dukhalayam ashashvatam. But in the same way, same time, going to heaven, or especially going to the spiritual world, it's not that everyone who dies goes there. It's like everyone who goes to the airport. They don't meet at the airport and stay there forever. They have different destinations. And when we die, we also have different destinations. And if our desire is not to be connected to God in the spiritual world, or if our desire is not to be, or our karma is not up to the point of a heavenly planet, we're not just going to go there because we die, because everyone dies. Then we come back. It's another saying that I find very funny. You only live once. I think they use it as an acronym. That's the motivation why we do things. We only live once. Yes, we only live once at a time. Then we die, and then we come back and we live again. Here the point may be raised that if the demigods are different parts of the body of the Supreme Lord, then the same end should be achieved by worshipping them. However, worshippers of the demigods are less intelligent because they don't know to what part of the body food must be supplied. Some of them are so foolish that they claim that there are many parts and many ways to supply food. This isn't very sanguine. I don't know that word. Can anyone supply food to the body through the ears or eyes? They do not know that these demigods are different parts of the universal body of the Supreme Lord, and in their ignorance they believe that each and every demigod is a separate god and a competitor to the Supreme Lord. So, cosmology is not just planets, it's persons. All the planets, they have inhabitants, and all the planets have someone who's the main person. So there's a moon god, there's a sun god, there's even Bhumi, who's the personification of the earth planet. We don't have that perspective because yes, when we say that the worshippers of the demigods are have small intelligence, alpa medhasam, those of us who don't even know the demigods are there, our intelligence is even smaller, so that's nothing to be proud of. So that's one step in understanding the universe, but we don't want to go overboard on one side of rejecting the whole structure of demigods, devas, and we don't want to go overboard on the other side and thinking let's just worship anybody, everybody. It's all the same, because it isn't the same, and it's not that if you take one side and the other side and mix them up a little bit, then you arrive at the truth. Because we want to know the truth in order to arrive at it, and we will hear it from Krishna, because he's really the best source. Not only are the demigods part of the Supreme Lord, but ordinary living entities are also part of the Supreme Lord. In the Srimad Bhagavatam it is stated that the Brahmanas are the head of the Supreme Lord, the Kshatriyas are his arms, the Vaishyas are his waist, and the Shudras are his legs, and all serve different functions. We were going through these points earlier on when we were speaking about the Varnashram structure, how we all have certain capacities in this world, and therefore we have certain duties and also certain facilities in this world, and they're different depending on who we are living as in this life, but the spirit soul is the same. We live like this, then we die. We live like that, then we die. And we're also part of Krishna, and our functions are not on the level of the devas, but we certainly have some functions. Regardless of the situation, if one knows that both the demigods and he himself are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, his knowledge is perfect. But if he does not understand this, he achieves different planets where the demigods reside. This is not the same destination the devotee reaches. So, we cannot stress this enough. We have this human form. We are human beings now, so it means we have a certain level of intelligence that we can apply to studying spiritual knowledge. We have a certain capacity. Our consciousness is on a high enough level that we can apply it to spiritual life. We can start our prayers, our meditation, our worship, and we can, of course, by the good counsel, by the good directions of the Bhagavad-gita, of the teachers of the Bhagavad-gita, we can decide to aim with some determination for the supreme goal. Because we are spiritual in nature and there is a spiritual existence. It's not just some vague dream that happens after death. When that realization unfolds in the heart, even when we are still living in this world, in this body, we will have another level of consciousness. But before we are there, we're not starting at the end, we're starting right where we are. It's very comforting to be able to turn to Bhagavad-gita and get, of course, a sense of the Supreme, a sense of our own spiritual nature, a process for deepening that understanding, but also just knowledge of the universe, the devas, the planets, all of that. We get that just into the bargain, right? The results achieved by the demigods' benedictions are perishable, because within this material world, the planets, the demigods, and their worshippers are all perishable. Therefore, it is clearly stated in this verse that all results achieved by worshipping demigods are perishable, and therefore such worship is performed by the less intelligent living entity. Because the pure devotee engaged in Krishna consciousness in devotional service of the Supreme Lord achieves eternal blissful existence that is full of knowledge, his achievements and those of the common worshippers of the demigods are different. The Supreme Lord is unlimited, his favour is unlimited, his mercy is unlimited. Therefore, the mercy of the Supreme Lord upon the pure devotees of his pure devotees is unlimited. Yes. So when we read Bhagavad-gita, different points come up in different chapters, and in the purports we go right back to the core. We go right back to the existential question. But we will understand it from all these different angles, and there will be, well, of course, when we read Bhagavad-gita, we will also read Srimad Bhagavatam, and it will continue. But philosophically, Bhagavad-gita is quite complete, and we get this good understanding, but we don't want to get stuck on some detail and forget the bigger picture. So the bigger picture comes back again and again. We want to understand the devas, we want to respect the devas, but we also want to understand that actually us and the devas and every living entity in the universe, we're all parts of that Supreme Personality of Godhead. We all have the possibility in this lifetime to turn to him and to realize him and come back to our original position. And as human beings, actually our scope is a little bit better, because the demigods easily get caught up in the universal affairs, easily get caught up in their own pride, in their own abilities, in their own much higher level of enjoyment. So it is, I have heard it, I don't remember where it's from, but I've heard that the devas in this age of Kali, in this time, they are actually queuing up to take birth as human beings on this planet in order to be able to take advantage of this easy process of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And if that's good enough for the devas, it's certainly good enough for us. Thank you so much, Hare Krishna. And I've mentioned it every once in a while that below this video we have a little box with information. You can find playlists for all the previous chapters. You can find links for finding a Hare Krishna temple or a Bhagavad-gita, and lots of room for questions and comments. I welcome them. Thanks. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for watching. We aim for updates every Tuesday and Friday. Please come back. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down there. We also have some links and information for you. And there is, of course, the subscribe button. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
I'm a Hare Krishna, and I approve this message. Subscribe.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare